to the first cooking segment on Big Sheep. We don't know if this is going to be a regular feature, but I have a new camera and I wanted to play with it. And taking a leaf out of my friend Amy's book, I thought I would film myself cooking something. Probably not to say her same high standards, but hey, we've got to try somewhere. And if I get better over the process of these films, who knows? All I know is my office mates will at least benefit from cake. The first thing that we're going to try is Battenberg. It was a favourite nibble of mine when I was younger, and I've wanted to try and do it for a long time. And I tried it a few weeks back, and it was more Battenberg, a nice yellow checkerboard of it. So this time, thanks to some lovely food paste my sister has lent me, we want to go one better. So what you need for the cake portion of the Battenberg, the marzipan outer will come later, is 150 grams worth of softened butter, 150 grams worth of caster sugar, 4 medium eggs, 75 grams worth of ground rice, 150 grams worth of self-raising flour, just under a teaspoon of baking powder, a few drops of almond essence, and then for that lovely pink colour, you know, that natural pink colour, some colouring. Anyone who knows me knows I'm a big fan of the Great British Bake Off, and this recipe has been borrowed from one of Mary Berry's books, so hopefully we won't do it an injustice over the next hour. So we're not doing the all-in-one recipe, so first in goes the sugar, and in goes the butter. Dropping this down, we'll then start to cream them. So now we've creamed the butter and the sugar, we need to take our eggs and add them a little bit at a time. We need to add them slowly so they don't curdle, so make sure you've got some flour on standby, just in case that starts happening and you can try and pull it back from the brink. So I freaked out a little during it, so I added a few spoonfuls of flour, but it seems to be alright. By this stage you should be quite a liquidy but yellow and smooth mess. So now we start adding the flour, both types of flour, and the baking powder. One thing I forgot to mention is don't forget to add the almond essence, and just lob that in, a couple of drops with the rest of the flour, and beat that for about a couple of minutes until it all ends up nice and smooth. And now this is where the fiddly parts come in. It's tricky because now's the time when we try and separate out the colours. My wife Ali has delightfully got me an actual Battenberg tin to help ease out this process, but it's easy enough just to get a square tin and put some baking paper in as a divide. Don't bother with the 4, just do half down the middle. Take half your liquid, and half is important, you don't want to put more than that, and spoon it in to your mould. You don't have to do it to the top, as it will obviously rise in the oven. That's the yellow half done. Now we need to sort out the pink half. Take the food paste and put it in the bowl and give it a good mix. Now the reason I use food paste rather than food colouring is that the food colouring is far more liquidy. Not only does it give a more insipid colour, but it adds moisture to the recipe itself. And if you're going to add moisture, you need to take it away elsewhere. Whereas paste is far more durable. You can put it in and you don't have to worry about the balances. Somewhat surprisingly, I've managed to get the mixture about 50-50, so it looks like hopefully we're going to get an even distributed Battenberg. So, next up is cooking. You can probably hear the oven humming in the background. Preheat that to 160 degrees, and this should be in there for about 30 minutes or so. So, when that's out of the oven, we're going to need to look at the marzipan. You're going to need about 250 grams of golden marzipan. They tend to sell it in 500 gram bags, so you've got a bit left over to nibble after you're done. And the one key I can give here is that you need to put down some icing sugar on your worktop to not let the marzipan stick to it. It's very easy to get a nice thin layer of marzipan that you're very proud of and then want to wrap over the cake, only to find out halfway through it rips as it's got rather attached to its surface. So with the Battenberg out of the oven, we now need to let it cool, and after that we need to start putting it all together. Now, anyone who knows Battenberg knows that it's not just lumped on top of each other, it's got a gelling agent, and that is apricot jam. So we need to heat that over the stove for a short while to make it nice and gloopy, and use that like glue to stick it all together. Once it's assembled in a 4x4 grid, then you can get the marzipan that you rolled while it was cooking and start placing that around it. you're dressing the Battenberg at this point. Put your Battenberg on the marzipan and then just paint the jam onto the rest of it so you can fold it over and roll it up. At this point it's worth kneading up the edges, but because the edges of the cake are slightly crusty because of the outside of the tin, it's best just to cut a tiny slice off each end. And at the end of it all, we have a Battenberg. Look at those colours! It's far better than the beige and beige I had last time. So, it's that simple. If a Muppet like me can do it, so can you. Enjoy. I'm off to have a slice of cake.